Imagine reaching into your pocket, feeling a single penny between your fingers, and realizing it's worth $1.8 million. Yes, a tiny copper-colored coin from 2016, hiding in plain sight, carrying a secret almost no collector has fully understood. Today, you're about to hear a story that will change the way you look at every Lincoln penny for the rest of your life. Because somewhere in the United States right now, a 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a cup holder, or an old dresser drawer, and it is worth more money than most people make in an entire lifetime. And the strangest part? This wasn't supposed to happen. This coin wasn't designed to be rare, special, or valuable. Yet somehow, fate, timing, and one tiny mistake turned it into the kind of treasure coin collectors dream about. Let's go back to the beginning, because the backstory of this coin is almost as unbelievable as the value itself. In early 2016, the Philadelphia Mint was pumping out billions of pennies. Billions. These coins were meant to be everywhere, tossed around without a second thought. But hidden inside that ocean of ordinary pennies, a microscopic number were struck differently. Not just slightly different, but dramatically different. The kind of difference that turns copper-plated zinc into pure gold for whoever finds one. Some collectors whisper that it started with a shift change at the mint. Others claim a damaged die was swapped too late. A few even say an experimental planchet batch slipped onto the presses before anyone noticed. No one can agree, and maybe no one ever will. But what we do know is this: a virtually unknown error slipped through the cracks. And the few surviving pennies with this flaw carry a value that hits the million-dollar mark without hesitation. Now take a breath, because this is where everything becomes real for you. You can find this coin, and you need to know exactly what to look for. Thousands of collectors have already checked their change for the rare pennies of 2009, 1982, 1992, and 1955. But hardly anyone is checking their 2016 pennies. Because why would they? It's a modern coin. It looks common. It feels common. And that's the trap. That's the perfect camouflage for a treasure that could rewrite the story of your life. Reset for a moment. Think about all the change you've handled lately. The coins you tossed into a cup on your dresser. The handful of pennies a cashier gave you without a second thought. Any one of them could hold this silent fortune. The first identifying sign is simple, yet crucial. No mint mark. Not D, not S, not anything. Just a clean blank space under the date. That alone doesn't make it worth a fortune, but it puts you in the right neighborhood. Because the Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark in 2016. So any no mint mark penny from that year should get your attention immediately. But here's where the story deepens. The million-dollar versions show a striking anomaly that separates them from every ordinary penny you've seen. These special 2016 cents were hit by a misaligned or damaged die. Look closely at Lincoln's eye. It may appear doubled, shadowed, or strangely stretched. Under his chin, you might notice what collectors call a split serif, like the design is peeling into two. Sometimes the date 2016 itself shows a slight doubling, almost like a faint echo left behind. Breathe for a moment. This isn't complicated. These clues are visible with the naked eye. You don't need fancy tools. All you need is patience, a little light, and the willingness to slow down and look at every single coin. Now let's reset again. Think about what $1 million could do for you, for your family, for your future. One penny, casually struck, distributed across the country, could pay off a home, fund a retirement, or create a fresh start you never imagined. That's the power this 2016 treasure holds. But there's one more feature that makes this coin legendary. On some of these rare pieces, the reverse side, the shield, shows what's known as a die clash or a ghost image. You may see faint lines crossing the shield, shapes that shouldn't be there, marks that look like Lincoln's outline pressed on the wrong side. Collectors believe these clashed varieties are the ones breaking into million-dollar territory. These are the pennies that slip through with errors so dramatic, they become the crown jewels of modern U.S. coinage. This next moment matters, so reset again. Imagine the millions of people walking past life-changing pennies every single day because the coin is too ordinary, too modern, too easy to overlook. But not you. Not anymore. You now know the truth behind the coin's mysterious rise to fame. You know the signs, the details, the markings, the secrets that transform an everyday penny into $1 million rarity. The doubling, the distorted eye, the shadowed numbers, the ghostly reverse. These are the whispers of a mistake the mint never intended the world to see. Take a deep breath and picture yourself at the kitchen table tonight. A small stack of pennies sits in front of you. You sort through them slowly. And then, one coin catches the light just a little differently. The eye looks strange. The date looks doubled. Your heart starts racing. Because you know what that means now. And you know exactly what to do. Collectors dream of moments like this. Lifetimes are spent hoping for it. And yet, the chance is sitting right there in the most ordinary places. Pockets, jars, drawers, glove compartments, old coffee cans in the garage. You don't need luck. You just need awareness. And here's the final reset before we close this story. The 2016 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of the most overlooked coins of the modern era. But a tiny handful, fewer than anyone can even estimate, carry a flaw so rare, so dramatic, they are worth over $1 million. You've seen the clues. You've heard the story. And now, the search belongs to you. Imagine reaching into an old coffee can of coins and pulling out a single Lincoln penny so rare, so unlikely, that it could instantly change your life. Imagine a coin from 1980, with no mint mark, hiding in plain sight, quietly worth over $1 million. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly why this story is going to shake you. Because the most valuable treasures are always the ones nobody thinks to look for. That you're about to hear the strange, almost unbelievable truth behind a 1980 no mint Mark Lincoln penny that collectors have been chasing for decades. And what makes this one so dangerous is that it looks ordinary. It looks like every other penny you've seen 1,000 times. But something happened in 1980 that turned a tiny fraction of these coins into secrets the mint never meant to release. You're standing at your dresser, dumping your pocket change like you've done every night for years. One coin sticks to your hand. It feels the same. It looks the same. But when you flip it over in the light, something doesn't add up. One small detail tells you this isn't just a penny. It's a once-in-a-generation million-dollar discovery. It's 1980. The U.S. Mint is pumping out billions of Lincoln cents. Billions. And to keep up with the demand, machines are running non-stop, dies are being swapped, and tiny mistakes are being quietly produced in the chaos of that year's high-speed production. Most mint mistakes never leave the building. But occasionally, one slips through. And that's where the legend of the 1980 no mint mark penny begins. Philadelphia made pennies without mint marks. That's normal. But that's not the mystery. The mystery is what happened to a small group of coins struck with the wrong die metal, the wrong pressure, or a misaligned, warped die that created details impossible to replicate. These coins were never documented, never officially acknowledged, but collectors started whispering about them. A few turned up with razor-sharp details on Lincoln's coat, unusual polishing lines, or even a subtly doubled year. And every time one appeared, the value shot up like a rocket. This is where your heart should start beating a little faster, because this is where you need to start imagining what's in your own pocket right now. Every minute or so, I want you to mentally rummage through your change. Because these coins don't jump out at you unless you know what to look for. And once you know the signs, it becomes impossible not to check. First, the mint mark area. Even though 1980 Philly cents normally have no mint mark, the rare ones have a perfectly flat, perfectly smooth left field beneath the date. No bumps, no waviness, no depression. It almost looks intentionally polished. If you see even the faintest ghost of a mint mark-shaped blur, it's not the one. The real ones are clean. Next, look at the date. This is where the magic happens. Some of these rare coins show doubling, thick, shadow-like edges on the numbers 1, 9, 8, and 0. It might be light, or it might be dramatic. But collectors chasing these million-dollar coins report the doubled 8 as the biggest clue. If the inside loops of the 8 look thicker or split, stop everything. You might have the right one. Now check Lincoln's profile. That's where the die pressure from the flawed strikes shows itself most clearly. The details around the beard, the cheekbone, and the jacket are unusually sharp, far sharper than a normal penny from the 80s. It looks almost 3D, like the coin was carved instead of stamped. But the final clue is the reverse. Look at 1 cent. The rare examples show tiny die polishing lines that run diagonally behind the letters. These are not scratches from circulation. These are mint-produced lines, straight, light, and exact. If you see random scratches, ignore it. But if you see clean diagonal lines all the way behind 1 cent, that's a major sign. You, right now, could be holding a coin other collectors have searched for their entire lives. People spend thousands of dollars chasing rumors of this coin at auctions, estate sales, and flea markets. And yet the person who eventually finds it might be someone who never even meant to look. Imagine waking up tomorrow, grabbing your old coin jar, and spotting a single 1980 penny at the bottom that suddenly makes your chest tighten. You look closer. No mint mark, perfectly flat field. The double date. The razor-sharp Lincoln. The diagonal polished lines on the back. Your hands start shaking because you already know. You've seen the signs. And in that moment, you realize you're holding a coin worth more than $1 million. Collectors talk about luck, but this isn't luck. This is awareness. And most people never get that far. But you're not most people. You're someone who understands the thrill of the hunt. Someone who knows the rush of spotting a tiny detail nobody else noticed. Someone who knows that every coin has a story, and some stories are worth more than we can imagine. Let's bring you back into the moment again. Reach into your mental coin pile. Picture those brownish 1980 cents sitting there, ignored for years. One of them could be the misstrike that experts have been arguing about for decades. A coin minted during a chaotic production week when dies were swapped too fast, pressure settings were off, and the quality checks were weak. A coin that should have been melted down but wasn't. A coin that survived. Imagine being the person who finds it. Not because you're lucky, but because you finally knew what to look for. These discoveries never come from people who assume they're impossible. They always come from people who dare to check. People who take just a few seconds to glance at a date. People who flip a penny over and say, "Why does this look different?" Those are the people who make million-dollar discoveries. Ordinary folks with an ordinary penny that turns out to be anything but ordinary. And the 1980 no mint mark penny is still out there. More than one. Hidden in drawers, old wallets, dusty jewelry boxes, and bags of coins left behind by parents and grandparents who saved everything. These coins are out there, waiting for someone who knows the clues. You're that someone now. The next time you see a 1980 penny, don't brush it aside. Don't assume it's just another worn-out cent. Hold it up to the light. Check the date. Look at the mint mark area. Study the details. Slow down and really observe it. Because the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million is just a few tiny details. Details that most people will never notice. But you know better now. And if your heart is beating a little harder right now, that's not by accident. That's because somewhere in the back of your mind, you already know you might have one of these. You've handled thousands of these pennies in your lifetime. Thousands. And all it takes is one. Imagine reaching into your pocket for nothing more than a little loose change and realizing you're holding a doorway to a whole new life. A single coin, a simple 2019 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, secretly worth $1.1 million. Sounds impossible, right? But tonight, you're about to hear why collectors all over the country are whispering about one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. With a mistake. A quiet, accidental, almost invisible error at the United States Mint that slipped past machines, inspectors, and millions of hands before anyone realized what had happened. And yet, one of these rare mistakes didn't just survive. It escaped into the real world, into circulation, into pocket change, into the everyday flow of life. And the strangest part is that you might have one already without even knowing it. Think about that for a moment. Every time you've tossed pennies into an old jar, every time you've ignored that copper glint on a store counter, every time you've emptied your pockets onto the dresser, you might have passed up the easiest $1 million you will ever touch. Now here's where the story takes a turn. In early 2020, rumors started circulating among experienced collectors. Someone had found a 2019 Lincoln penny unlike anything they had ever seen. It wasn't about the date. It wasn't about the design. It wasn't even about the missing mint mark. Thousands of coins are struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark at all. No, this was something much deeper. Something subtle. Something disturbing enough to make professional graders stop and stare. This coin had an error that should not exist. But before we get to that, let me reset your attention for a moment. Because if you're listening right now thinking, "There's no way I'd ever find a $1 million penny," remember this. Almost every major coin discovery in the last 50 years came from regular people. Not dealers, not auction houses. Ordinary men and women clearing out their junk drawers, checking their change at the grocery store, rolling coins for extra cash. The biggest treasures hide where no one ever looks. Back to the mysterious 2019 penny. What made it special was a flaw so perfectly formed, so clean, and so precise that experts believe it came from a damaged die that created only a tiny number of examples before being replaced. Imagine a machine striking millions of pennies per day, but for only a few moments, it stamped a tiny, almost invisible signature of rarity onto a handful of coins. Those few coins slipped into circulation, and now one of them has already been valued at $1.1 million by private collectors who understand just how rare it truly is. Collectors call it the phantom doubling. On the 2019 no mint mark penny, the doubling appears around the word liberty and sometimes around the date. It's not dramatic, not cartoonishly thick like the classic 1955 doubled die. It's subtle, almost ghost-like, the kind of doubling you'd miss unless you tilt the coin under a bright light and slowly rotate it. From one angle, the letters look normal. From another, they shimmer, almost as if there's a second image hiding beneath the first. That ghost effect is the hallmark of the rare die that created these extraordinary coins. That let's reset your attention again, because this next part matters more than anything else you're about to hear. If you find a coin like this, do not clean it. Do not rub it. Do not polish it. One scratch can take a $1.1 million treasure and turn it into a $5 curiosity. Leave it exactly as it is. Place it in a protective holder or even a small piece of folded tissue and contact a professional grading company. The right person seeing your coin at the right time could literally change your life. Now, let's go deeper into what to look for. First, the mint mark, or more accurately, the lack of one. Philadelphia pennies have no mint mark, but that alone doesn't make a coin valuable. What matters is the doubling. Hold the coin under a bright LED flashlight or even sunlight. Look closely at the L in Liberty. If the letter appears stretched, shadowed, or doubled, even slightly, that's your first sign. Next, tilt the coin and check the 2 and 0 in the date 2019. If there's a ghost image beside the numbers, your heart should start beating a little faster. But here's the emotional twist in this entire mystery. The first person who found one of these rare 2019 pennies didn't even know what they had. They almost spent it. Imagine that. Someone holding a $1 million opportunity between their fingers and almost handing it over for a pack of gum. The only reason the coin was saved was because the finder noticed something just a little odd about the lettering. A tiny shimmer, a strange reflection, something that whispered, "Look again." Think how many people may have ignored the same whisper. Let's reset your attention once more. You don't need years of experience. You don't need expensive tools. All you need is curiosity, decent lighting, and a willingness to check every penny that crosses your path. That's how discoveries are made. Through patience, not luck. Now imagine the moment. Really picture it when you find one. Maybe you're sorting through pocket change on a slow evening. Maybe you're rolling coins to take to the bank. Maybe you're just bored and decide to check the old coffee can you haven't touched in 20 years. Suddenly, one penny catches your eye. You tilt it. The letters shift. There's a second image hiding beneath the first. A ghost. A clue. And your breath catches because you realize you might be holding something extraordinary. This is the magic of coin collecting. Every coin is a story. Every year has secrets. Every mistake at the mint is a hidden doorway waiting for the right person to open it. And in 2019, one of those mistakes created a treasure that has already stunned experts and set collectors chasing after every phantom doubled penny they can find. And here's the final attention reset before we wrap up. Don't underestimate the power of a small coin. People have bought houses, paid off debts, started new lives because of rare finds just like this. $1 million coins aren't just for museums. They're for people like you. People willing to look closely, to dig deeper, to believe that something incredible might be hiding in plain sight. The 2019 no mint mark Lincoln penny with the phantom doubling is real. It's out there, and it is worth over $1 million to the right collector. All you have to do is look for it. Imagine holding an ordinary penny and realizing it's the key to a fortune. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a beat-up brown coin, and discovering it's worth more than most people make in a decade. That's not a rumor. That's not clickbait. This is the chilling, real possibility behind the mysterious 1994 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin some collectors believe could be worth as much as $1.2 million. And tonight, you're going to hear exactly why.it all starts with a mistake. But not the kind of mistake you can spot from across the room. This one is subtle, silent, hidden in the shadows of everyday life. Because in 1994, something strange happened at the US Mint. Something that shouldn't have happened. Something that created one of the most sought-after Lincoln cents ever discovered, and one most collectors don't even know exists. Even today, decades later, whispers circulate in coin shops and online forums about a handful of 1994 pennies without a mint mark that seem to defy normal production patterns. And every time a new rumor surfaces, the same questions return. How many were made? Why were they made? And why do the few that have surfaced sell for numbers that make collectors' jaws drop? Take a breath. Reset for a moment. Because what you're about to hear might change how you look at every penny you touch. The 1994 Lincoln penny should have a mint mark. Most were struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark. But here's where things get strange. A tiny fraction of these coins show irregularities, die characteristics, striking anomalies, and surface patterns that don't match the standard 1994 Philadelphia issues. These ultra-rare pieces aren't just no mint mark cents. There's something else, something special, something that some experts say could have been the result of an experimental die, a mishandled production run, or even an unrecorded test strike. And when a coin enters the market with no documentation, no explanation, and no clear reason for existing, its value skyrockets. That's how we get from 1 cent to over $1 million. A mint error so unusual, so undocumented, and so scarce that collectors throw around phrases like once in a generation and museum-worthy. But here's the wild part. These coins don't look flashy at first glance. They don't sparkle with gold or shimmer with silver. The magic lives in the tiny details. Details so small that most people miss them. Details that only someone like you, a collector, a hunter, a seeker of hidden treasures, would even think to look for. Start with the basics. A genuine 1994 no-mint mark penny worth serious money is always struck on a bronze planchet, not the typical copper-plated zinc used that year. That is the first giveaway. Bronze gives off a deeper, richer color, almost a warm reddish tone compared to the lighter, shinier look of zinc cents. If your 1994 penny feels heavier than normal, if it has that old-school ring when tapped, that's your first clue that you may not be holding an ordinary coin. Now look closer. A real million-dollar example will show sharply defined lettering, especially around Liberty and I in God We Trust. These coins were struck unusually hard, almost as if the mint was testing pressure levels or experimenting with new dies. The rim will look slightly broader and more pronounced than the average 1994 cent. And when you examine Lincoln's portrait, look for crisp lines in the hair and beard, far more detailed than the typical mid-90s cents that were often weakly struck. But there's one more sign. And this is the sign that separates the truly rare coins from the lookalikes. When you tilt the coin under light, the surface will reveal die flow lines that seem smoother, more controlled, and more uniform than standard circulation strikes. These lines almost look like gentle waves, like the metal is flowing across the coin in slow motion. It's one of the only visible fingerprints of the mysterious die used on these extraordinary pieces. Take a breath again. Let the suspense settle. Because the truth is, if you don't take the time to look closely at your own 1994 pennies, you could be holding one of these treasures without even knowing it. Now picture this. A collector in Ohio once bought a small jar of pennies at a garage sale. Nothing special, just a dusty jar by the cash box. Weeks later, while sorting through them, he found a 1994 penny that felt heavier in his fingers. The color was different. The strike looked strange. He sent it off to be graded and waited. When the envelope finally arrived, his hands were shaking. The label confirmed it. It was one of the rare bronze planchet 1994 no-mint mark anomalies. And overnight, his world changed. Experts valued it in the million-dollar range. 1 penny, $1 million. One moment that turned an ordinary day into a story he'll tell for the rest of his life. Reset again. Because stories like that aren't just legends. They're reminders. Reminders that the coins hiding in jars, drawers, glove boxes, junk drawers, and coffee cans could be the next million-dollar discovery. And these 1994 no-mint mark pennies are exactly the type of coin most people overlook. They blend in. They pretend to be ordinary. They hide behind their simplicity, but to the trained eye, they're screaming to be found. Imagine you're at the kitchen table under a single warm light. You slide a stack of pennies across the surface. They clatter together softly, the soundtrack of quiet opportunity. Your hands work through them one at a time. Then you see a 1994. You pause. Your heart presses against your ribs, just a little harder. You lift it. Turn it. Look for that richer bronze glow. Run your finger across the raised rim. You tilt it toward the lamp and watch the flow lines dance faintly across the surface. For a moment, the noise of the world disappears, and the only thing that exists is that tiny copper coin resting in your palm. That's the spark collectors live for. The possibility that something life-changing is sitting right there. Take another mental reset. Because the story of the 1994 no-mint mark penny isn't just about a rare error. It's about hope. It's about the dream that makes coin collecting so thrilling. The belief that a piece of metal worth a single cent can turn into a treasure worth over $1 million. It's about the chase, the surprise, the unbelievable moment when reality bends and rewards the ones who keep searching. The truth is, these coins don't care who finds them. They don't care if you're a seasoned expert or someone just starting out. They don't care if you discovered coin collecting last week or 50 years ago. They only care that someone has the courage to look. Because the only people who ever find million-dollar coins are the ones who actually take the time to search. So tonight, when this video ends, when the excitement settles, when your mind goes quiet, and your hands finally reach into that old jar of change on the shelf, remember this moment. Remember what you heard. Remember the details, the weight, the color, the strike, the flow lines. And remember that unbelievable truth that keeps the heartbeat of this hobby alive. You're sorting through a handful of old pennies, not expecting much, maybe looking for something to pass the time, when suddenly, one copper-colored coin catches the light just a little differently. Your heart jumps, but you don't know why. You lean closer. And in that moment, without realizing it, you might be holding a 1964 Lincoln penny worth over $1.3 million. Most people would toss it back into their change jar. But you're about to learn why this tiny piece of metal has become one of the most exciting mysteries in modern coin collecting. The year is 1964. The country is tense, the mint is under pressure, and coins are moving through production faster than ever. Billions of pennies being rushed out. But somewhere in that chaotic storm, a tiny mistake, or maybe a deliberate act, created a microscopic number of coins that never should have existed. Pennies unlike anything anyone expected. Pennies that collectors now whisper about like a treasure legend. And one of them could be sitting in your house right now. Before we dive into exactly what makes this coin so rare, take a moment and let that sink in. A plain-looking penny from 1964, the most common penny year in history, suddenly becoming the key to $1 million discovery. Imagine being the person who finds it. Imagine the moment you flip it over, your hands shaking, realizing that the tiny mint mark on the front isn't quite what the world thought it was. $1 million, life-changing in a single breath. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Collectors around the country started noticing strange 1964 Denver pennies surfacing. Pennies struck with unexpected die varieties, unusual mint mark placements, and tiny errors that seemed almost too perfect to be accidents. Rumors began circulating, quiet at first, then louder. Stories of mint workers experimenting during late-night trial runs. Stories of leftover 1963 dies accidentally being mixed into 1964 production lines. Stories of double strikes that were corrected, polished, or hidden. And somewhere in all that chaos, the 1964 million-dollar penny was born. Let's reset for a moment. Take a breath. If you're listening right now, you're probably leaning forward, wondering how you'd even recognize something like this in your own coins. Start with the basics. The obverse, the front of the coin. Look at Lincoln's profile. On rare specimens, the details are unnaturally sharp for a circulation penny. The hair texture jumps out. The coat lines are crisp. It almost looks elevated, like a prototype coin that never should have made it out of the mint. Now, your eyes shift to the mint mark. The D. Here's the secret. On the ultra-rare variety, the D mint mark has one unmistakable giveaway. It's repunched. Not once, multiple times. A tiny shadow of a second D sits slightly northeast or southwest of the primary one, depending on the surviving specimen. When light hits it just right, it appears almost like a ghost mint mark hovering beside the real one. Collectors call it the RPM, the repunched mint mark. And on this coin, it's so pronounced, so dramatic, that it transforms an ordinary penny into a $1 million legend. Reset again. Don't let your mind wander yet. We're not done. Now flip the coin over. The reverse. The Lincoln Memorial. On the rarest examples, you'll notice something else. The steps and pillars are unusually bold, unusually deep, almost sculpted. The fields behind them have a smooth, proof-like quality. These weren't ordinary working dies. These were early dies, fresh, experimental, and never meant to last long. But for a moment, they touched a handful of coins, and those coins slipped out into circulation as if guided by fate. But here's the detail that sealed the destiny of this penny. On the reverse, look closely around the word America. Some of the rare variants show the letters spaced slightly differently, a subtlety that hints at the wrong die being paired with the wrong year. That tiny, nearly invisible spacing error is one of the markers that appraisers look for before awarding the incredible seven-figure value. 7 figures. $1 million. From a penny. Let that reset your mind for a second. Think about how absurdly wild that is. Something we've all spent without a second thought. Something we drop between couch cushions. Something that jingles at the bottom of a car cup holder. Sitting there with the power to transform someone's life forever. But there's something even more mysterious about the 1964 D penny. No one knows exactly how many were made. Some experts say fewer than 20. Some say fewer than 10. And some believe only 2 or 3 flawless examples may still exist. That mystery is what makes every search feel like a treasure hunt. Every old jar, every inherited collection, every childhood coin folder suddenly becomes a portal to possibility. And here's the emotional part, the part that makes collectors chase coins like this year after year. It's not just about the money. It's the idea that history sometimes chooses ordinary people. A rare coin doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care where you live. It doesn't care whether you're a lifelong numismatist or someone who just happened to empty out the kitchen junk drawer. It chooses its finder at random. And that chance, that hope, is what keeps this hobby alive. Next time you see a 1964 penny, don't shrug it off. Hold it to the light. Look for the repunched D. Look for unusually sharp details. Look for anything that feels just a little too perfect for a coin that should have been mass-produced like any other. That feeling you get, that little spark of curiosity, that's how million-dollar discoveries begin. And before we close, let's reset one last time. Imagine hearing the news that a simple penny, your penny, changed everything. Imagine being interviewed, telling the world you found a treasure hiding in plain sight. Imagine knowing your life shifted because you took a moment to look at something everyone else ignored. That's what makes this coin special. Not just the rarity, not just the money, but the possibility that fate tucked a fortune into an everyday coin and quietly waited for someone like you to recognize it. You're digging through an old jar of pennies, not expecting anything special, and suddenly, a simple 1991 Lincoln penny stares back at you. No mint mark, no fanfare, no shine, just a normal coin you've seen 1,000 times before. But what if I told you this tiny copper piece may be hiding a secret that could turn an ordinary day into a once-in-a-lifetime moment? What if this unassuming penny is sold for as high as $1.4 million, and almost nobody even knows why? Let's go back. Because the story of this mysterious 1991 no-mint mark penny doesn't start in a collector's showcase. It starts inside the mint itself, behind locked doors on a night when something went very, very wrong. But before we get there, take a breath. Because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, exactly how these errors happened, and exactly why a penny worth 1 cent suddenly became a $1 million discovery. It's 1991. Millions of pennies are rolling out of machines in Philadelphia. That's normal, because Philadelphia pennies usually carry no mint mark. But one specific batch, one almost mythical batch, was struck using a die that should never have been used. A die meant for proof coins. A die reserved for coins that were never supposed to leave a controlled environment. Yet somehow, for reasons no one has ever fully explained, those dies touched everyday circulation planchets and created a tiny number of coins that shouldn't exist. These aren't ordinary pennies. They have sharper details, deeper relief, and a different style of the AM in America. And because the right people didn't catch it in time, a handful of these coins slipped quietly into circulation, hiding for decades in pockets, purses, and junk drawers across America. And this is where your heart should start beating a little faster. Because collectors call this the 1991 no mint mark transitional rarity, and it is one of the most dangerous coins in the hobby. Dangerous because it blends in so perfectly. Dangerous because even seasoned collectors miss it. And dangerous because the moment you do find one, your entire life could flip in an instant. Let me reset your attention here, because this is the moment most people zone out and accidentally miss the most important part. If you're watching right now, stay with me. This is where treasure reveals itself. First, the strike. Regular 1991 pennies look soft, sometimes mushy, especially around Lincoln's bow tie and the letters in Liberty. But this rare version has razor-sharp details. Lincoln's beard looks like individual strands instead of muddy texture. His jacket line is crisp. The rims look tighter, like the coin was struck with more pressure. Next, the AM. Flip it over and check the word America. On the rare variety, the A and the M are very close together, almost touching. This is called the close AM, and it should never appear on a circulation 1991 penny. If you see it, your heart might just stop. And now, here's where the story gets even stranger. Professional graders say only a microscopic number of these coins exist. Not tens of thousands. Not thousands. Maybe a few dozen. Maybe fewer. That's why collectors whisper about it like it's a forbidden secret, and why one verified example pushed past $1 million at auction. $1 million for a coin everyone else overlooks. $1 million for a penny someone may have tossed into a tip jar without a second thought. Let me reset your attention again, because I want you to absorb this next part. Imagine the emotional punch of finding one of these coins. You're sitting at your kitchen table, checking change like you've done 100 times. You see the date, 1991. You barely notice it. Then you realize, wait, something is different. Something feels too sharp, too clean. You flip it. You see the AM. And suddenly everything inside you drops. Your hands shake. Your breath shortens. Because in that moment, you aren't just holding a penny. You're holding the kind of discovery people dream about, but never believe is real. The mystery behind how these coins escaped has fueled rumors for decades. Some say an employee intentionally released them. Some say they were struck during a shift change. Some believe they were test strikes that accidentally got swept into a regular batch. No one knows. And maybe that's what makes it even more powerful. A secret born inside the mint, scattered into the world one pocket at a time, waiting for someone like you to uncover it. Let me reset your attention one more time, because we're nearing the final truth. If you want to be sure, here are the steps. There should be none. Look for unusual sharpness. Focus on the distance between the A and the M. If the AM is nearly touching, you may be holding one of the rarest pennies ever created, and don't let its simple appearance fool you. The most valuable coins in history never look valuable at first glance. They blend in. They wait. They hide in places you look at every day but never truly see. But maybe, just maybe, today is different, because now you know the secret. Now you know what the mint never intended you to discover. Now you know why collectors are still searching, still hoping, still holding their breath every time they see a penny from 1991. And maybe tonight, when you open that drawer, or shake that coffee can full of loose change, or dump out those old coins you haven't checked in years, maybe your fingers will land on a penny that feels just a little too special.